I was going to say good morning, but hello to everyone, because people are literally all around the world here on this call, and it's great to see you all on this call. And I'm really excited about what we're going to be doing here today. My name is Auchettl. Some of you I know, some of you I don't know. And the purpose of today is to really look at this thing called frequency and vibration, and what we can do to raise our own frequency and to raise our own vibration. And the other thing I'm going to do with you is to look at what the difference between the two is, because there is a huge difference between the two. And when we understand that, that's when we can start changing our lives. And for myself, it's really changed my life over the last few years. My role in my work is really about uplifting humanity. That's what I do. And I do that through three ways, just so that you know, for those people who don't know who I am. And I've got a teaching background, a business background, and a theology background. So I sort of try to combine all those areas and a whole lot of modalities. I've got kinesiology and a whole range of modalities that I've done. And I've just combined all of that to help people in whatever way that I can. And I talk about the three areas that I work with. And the first area that I work with, just briefly, is in authentic communications. So I am the creator of a game called Conversations, an inspirational game that is literally helping people around the world connect and feel connected with each other. And I believe this idea of connection is becoming more and more important at the moment. You know, that's a huge area at the moment. The second area where I work with is where I started, which is actually called eye power, and it's about improving people's eyesight. And if people are interested in that, it's not the purpose of today's call, but if you're interested, I have a free ebook on improvemyeyes.com. Book's called Improve My Eyes, and people are literally improving their own eyesight just with that book without doing anything else. So somewhere to start, if you wear glasses or your eyes are getting a bit sore. I used to wear Coke bottle glasses and I got out of them. So there's that whole option there as well. And the third option that I do is in the area of mindset. And in particular, I focus on intuitive kinesiology. And this is sort of where we're going to be working with today. I've been working for 20 years at looking at sabotage clearing, at clearing those sabotage programs within us and really shifting forward from that. What we're going to do today, however, is something that came up, and a couple of people here from New York, it's really good to see, because about 2.5 years ago, I took myself on a bit of an adventure around the world for 6 months. And I did 10 countries, and I met some of the top New Thought leaders around the world. It was an amazing time. And up until then, the only work I'd done on any of this area of frequency consciousness was some of the David Hawkins stuff. I'm looking at levels of consciousness. And when I left, the highest I knew anyone was at 550. Like they have a scale from 0 to 1,000. And 700, they talk about the first stage of enlightenment, although at that stage, they just call it enlightenment, because we now know it's actually stages. And in traveling around the world, I met some of these amazing people who showed me that it's possible to raise our level of consciousness from this sort of glass ceiling where most people are sitting around 500, well past 1,000. And my first thought was I didn't think it was possible. It was even after doing all this work for all these years, I'm still going like, yeah, I think that's a bit far-fetched or whatever, you know, like you're just making these numbers up. But having done the kinesiology and I can test really well, I did find that it's accurate, and I found other people have been testing to the exact same numbers that I'm getting. So I'm getting that verification. So we're going to look at this whole area of vibration. And then when I came back, it was in January 2 years ago. So 2 years ago now, I actually looked at what is the difference between frequency and vibration and what's going on. And that's when my life has literally changed. And I just want to go through with you what the difference is. So then we're going to actually look at examples with people on the call at their frequency and their vibration. So when I first started this, that's all I had was this level of consciousness that was suddenly rising. And I started working with other people straight away when I got back from this trip overseas, and even when I was overseas. And I found that people's consciousness was increasing and their awareness was increasing, but their life wasn't changing. You know, the money wasn't coming in, the relationships weren't happening, life just wasn't really flowing. And so what I did is I sat down and I really tried to work out, okay, what's the difference here? So the first thing that I did is, having done, I've written a book called The Scan Charts, which is a whole lot of lists. And they're just all these lists for kinesiologists. So I've done that for 20 years. And this book's gone 5,000 copies to 8 countries, different languages, the whole thing. And in doing the Scan Chart book, I decided to explore how can I use that skill in looking at consciousness. And I recognize that in raising consciousness, we can actually go well above 1,000. And I'm talking well above 1,000 now. And some of you people on the core have actually done that. You know, I know now over 50 people at least who are well above 1,000 on the consciousness level. So it's really quite remarkable. And then what I did is, okay, what's the difference between that and frequency? And I started trying to explore it and search it on the internet, and I really didn't find anything. So when I don't find anything, I get excited because then I can create something. And so I started exploring and started working with a simple percentage from 0 to 100 to start with. You know, what percentage of our frequency are we using on a day-to-day basis to attract stuff? So the difference, I then started deciding that consciousness had to do, if you like, with our internal control system, our connection to spirit. A frequency has got to do with the law of attraction, and this tends to go up and down a little bit more. You know, we have highs and lows and stuff like that. And for me, developing something like the conversations game that's there, I created that when my frequency was quite high, and then it would drop and I'd be going like, oh, what's the point of all this? And then I'd create something else, and what's the point of all of this? And going through these sort of ups and downs. And I started looking at this frequency and I thought, okay, what's going on here? What's happening? And I recognized there's 2 things happen. One thing is quite a high up and down process in a traditional frequency. And when I did some work, and I do it through muscle testing, through intuition, through guidance, through working with others, I initially expected that I was going to start at 50% because that's where I thought the bottom of the run would be, and then would go up to 100. What I found is that the average on the planet is still only 25%. So people only attracting 25% of their potential on average. And I was really quite surprised by that, because I was thinking, wow, that's really low. And when I did all the scales and worked it all out, 20% of people are less than 10%. And I've even gone like, no way, like 10%, like that's hardly using any of our law of attraction. You know, it's almost completely asleep. So I muscle tested and I said, give me some examples of who's in this group, because there's got to be large numbers in this group. And the 2 groups that came up were military and fundamental religions, where they don't give people a say. You know, just do as I tell you to do and don't think. And both of those groups seem to stop people from reaching their potential in terms of their attraction stuff. It might be, you know, good in the army to keep them in control for whatever reason, if that's what they need to do, but they're not actually attracting in terms of what they're after. And so when I went through this and going to the other end, by the time I got to 50%, there's only 10% of the population at 50%. Only 10%. Wow. And that reduces by half every time you get to 60, to 70, to 80, to 90, etc. So the time you get up to, you know, 60, you're at 5%, 70, 2.5%, 80, 1.25%. And by the time you get to 90%, it's less than 1% of the population. And that was quite remarkable. So I did some work. I was around about 70% myself when I started, and worked through. I got to about 96 really easily. I did a lot of work in about 2 months. I watched a movie called Lucy, and I had this fear that if I got to 100%, somehow my cells would sort of blow up and I'd be put through the universe as sort of some sort of cosmos energy or something. So there was a part of me that my belief system wasn't too keen to break the 100% barrier. But what I found is when we got past 100%, there's actually another layer on top of it, a higher conscious frequency. And that's when things start to happen. And that's pretty exciting when we get, so we go from this traditional frequency. Some of our political leaders, by the way, operate at about 30%. You know, like they're higher than the majority of the population, but not much. And they think they're sort of superior. We won't mention anyone's name. So we've got that process. By the time we get to 100%, we start moving into a much gentler frequency that's sitting above all these highs and lows. And that's when I've been able to start really attracting a whole range of different experiences in my life. So it's been a really interesting process as I've gone through, because, and that's been the start of it. Since then, we're now working through about 10 levels of frequency. We're just finding, every few months I find this new one. I'm working with a friend and we just keep finding new ones and new ones and new ones. And what was interesting, about 6 months after doing this, I met someone in California who had calculated the exact frequencies that I calculated at the exact same time that I did. One was in January, one was in April, and one is in July of 2016. And so it shows me that there was this almost like a planetary, like it's not just me coming up with this, there's this planetary shift as we're sort of raising our frequencies. And so as we raise our frequencies, then major things can happen. All right. So I just want to start with there, because I think that's a really good place to start from, just to get that sort of basic understanding of what the two are. And what I want to do is go back and look at vibration and look at frequency, and to look at what the people on the call, what we can actually do about it, what we can do about raising that. All right. So before I go any further, are there any questions on that at this point? Does that make sense to people? Anyone want to make a comment? John, you've probably been in this the longest. Do you want to make a comment about that role, the different role of vibration and frequency?
Yeah, the frequency is the one that I have the probably the most challenge with, in that I can hold it for a little while, but then I'll drop back out again. And just recently I've had the experience of dropping out for quite a while, until suddenly it comes into my awareness that I'm not actually holding that frequency or operating, if you like, at how I would like to operate at. And so suddenly it's like, oh, okay, I've just dropped out. Now I can step back into it again and move it back up. So whereas the consciousness, I think, is more steady in that once you get there, you get there, but the frequency is the one. And then things seem to go easier when you're holding a higher frequency. Yes. It's more flow, less issues crop up.
Yep, totally agree. And I think that's the biggest thing, you know. And I used to have this thought that if we raised our consciousness, and a lot of the information out there sort of says if you raise your consciousness, your life will change. For me, we've got to raise our consciousness and raise our frequency. We've got to do both of them. And most people that I seem to work with don't have an issue raising their consciousness. They do all the personal development work. Then it's how they relate to the world. And then you've got these other people who are relating out to the world but haven't done the internal stuff. And the key to it is when we can do both and get both in alignment, that's when life will change. And it puts us, if you like, in that zone. And what I've been working with my groups at the moment is really about staying in that zone of just being really fully present and allowing stuff to occur. And that's when it gets exciting. All right. So does anyone who's been working with me want to just talk about their starting point from where they were with their vibration. Let's start with that. Does anyone remember where they were with their vibration to start with and roughly where they are now? And then what we'll do is get someone who hasn't been working with me, and we'll see if we can get them up a little bit, both in vibration and frequency today. And for those listening on the call, the same thing applies to you. You'll be able to do this for yourself as well and start raising your vibration and raising your frequency. Those listening to the replay. So
I think I started off at 700.
Hi, Caroline. Welcome to the call.
Hi, apologies I'm late, folks.
That's okay. Do you know where you started?
Was it around 700?
Okay. Got all your information here. So, you started a vibration of 500.
Oh, 500, okay.
Okay, so 500 is almost a standard. People who've done a lot of work will get to 500. And I think the average on the planet is about 150. I think they're trying to say if we get to 200, we make a mass conscious change. All right. So that was actually in August last year. And your frequency at the moment, do you know what it is at the moment?
I forget, it got to around 1,000, didn't it? Or just
Yeah,
over,
it's over 1,100 at the moment. So in the 6 months, we've got you from 500 to over 1,100, which again, a few years ago probably wouldn't have thought was possible. And to do that in 6 months, I think is an amazing effort. And Caroline's doing a whole lot of work, not just with me, but she's really a committed process in terms of making that shift. You tell Caroline to do something, she'll do it. And the key thing for shifting your vibration, it's not difficult, right? But the number one thing is daily meditation. So I tell all my groups, get in the practice of meditating every day. As soon as we go, oh yeah, I should do that. Or actually, I meditate once. I know what it's like. It's this daily building up. So it becomes part of your normal process. Okay. So, Kathy, I'm going to bring you on here at the moment. Can you come back, unmute yourself? And I'm just going to, would you mind if we work with you for a minute? We can't hear you. Where you've unmuted yourself and you're unmuted, so you should be able to talk with me. You've just, oh, now try
Okay,
it.
is that better?
That was very clever what you did, yes.
That headphone is losing battery, so.
All right.
Can you now?
Yep. So I don't know you at all. So would you mind if I use you as an example of where your consciousness is at the moment? Would you be interested to know?
Yes.
Okay. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an example of how I work here when I work with people, because I don't know, Kathy, we've never met, have we?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I'm just going to measure your vibration, measure your frequency, and I'm going to give you a story based on what the two numbers mean when I put the two numbers together, all right? So when I look at your vibration is coming up at 600. So already that's telling me that you've done a lot of work already. Like you've done a lot of internal, the word for 600 is actually peace. You've done a lot of this personal development work to start with already to get to that sort of number. When we look at your frequency is about 68%. So if I was just interpreting just those two numbers, what that's telling me is your vibration sort of running around up here, but what you're attracting is probably running around about there. That other people would probably be saying to you, oh, you're able to manifest stuff really well and you can do that. But I would suggest that yourself, you would know that your capacity to manifest is a lot higher. And there's a little bit of complacency that's come into your spiritual practices. Now, that's just given the numbers. So tell me what that looks like in reality for you. You know, whether it's right or wrong, I'm not attached to it. But tell me about your...
Yeah, there's a point, you know, you want to go to a next, you know, you don't want to like plateau.
Sure.
So, you know, I can relate to what you said, like at the end, because I'm like, okay, daily meditation, everything is what I do, but to get a little bit more balance,
Yes.
you know, that is spot on what you said.
Sure. One of the things that's come up for you, I've actually got a list of about 350 ways of increasing your frequency. You know, so I actually I can muscle test people to a whole list. But there seems to be a top 3 or 4 that are almost crucial, that people are either doing or they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them we mentioned already, which is meditation. The other one for you that's coming up is also this idea of emotional stability, of getting our emotional self in order. And the way I do that is through a process I've done called moving up the emotional scale. So we actually find where you are emotionally on the scale of 1 to 22, and then just gradually move you up. So 22 is about fear and grief and despair, and 1 is about being powerful, peace, joy, love, all those sorts of key words. So we're trying to move you up. And the key thing is, with practice, you get to do this yourself and learn to monitor where you are on this emotional scale, because we're not taught that. And that just helps stabilizing things, especially life still happens. You know, people have this attitude that when we become enlightened, when we become more aware, whatever words you want to use, that somehow life will just be really nice and it's all just going to be lovely and nothing's going to happen. And I'm here to tell you that it's not the case. But life still happens, you know. People still run over your cat and they still drive on the wrong side of the road and they still swear at you because they're in a bad mood, and all these things happen around you. The difference is that I found is that the way I respond now to these people is very different, and the way I respond to life is really different. So a couple of things, one of the things specifically for you has come up is to look at that emotional aspect of yourself. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it feels like you've had some emotional stuff in the past that's affected who you are now, and that's where I guess the sabotage clearing comes in, because we want to clear the old stuff in order to create the new stuff.
Right. No, that's true.
Yeah.
Spot
on. So, you know, the fact that you're meditating every day is being shown because it's probably meditation is the number one way of raising your vibration. All right. For you, the best way of raising your vibration, raising your frequency is going to be in getting that emotional balance right. And probably you need to go and see someone for that. Like, need to get that a little bit cleared. All right. To the other way for you, and I think you're doing this already, but just to bring your attention to it every day, and I think this is the daily practice that you may want to introduce again into your life, is the attitude of bringing more gratitude into your life. So again, I would suspect that you're already doing some of this, but what's coming up when I test for you is to up the ante on that, and then to even do more of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was having some conversation with someone, I think it was yesterday, on that topic, and without going into a lot of details, and very recently doing things and with the physical package I'm in, and I was telling them, I said, but I'm so grateful, even though I don't like to use terms like good and bad. Like you said, life happens.
Yeah.
So what do you do with that? You could either be and feel sorry or sorry, or you can, like you said, live that life and be grateful because you're here and you can do the next thing and go to the next place. And I like to help people that helped me get to this space, because I know what it was like when I didn't have it. And, so I am grateful for what I have, and I do understand what you're saying by building up to the next level, because that's always important, because there again, you get to that plateau, the complacency that you're speaking about. You want to be grateful, but you don't want to be like, okay, I'm grateful, that's it.
Yeah.
It's
the feeling behind it. It's the feelings that are kind of come up for you are the really important aspect, like it's the feelings that are going to help you to manifest. It's a feeling that's going to help you feel more stable within yourself. It's so important. It's that real heart space stuff for you. I believe it's important.
I'm sorry about the lighting. I just want to apologize. I don't know why it's like this, and it seems like as soon as you start talking, there's nothing flashing in here. So I don't know, maybe because we're having this vibrational conversation. I don't know.
That's really cool.
It is, and there's nothing in here that's doing that. So
wow. Okay, thank you. I just want to also point out that when I'm talking about a lot of this for you, I don't want to discount the fact that I acknowledge what you've already done. Like, we're having this conversation at a much higher level with you because of the fact that your frequencies, your vibrations are already at 600. So, I don't want you to think, oh, well, gee, you've really got to do a lot of this work. This is about where do you go, having got to this level, where do you go next? That's what we're talking about.
All right. No, I took it that way.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Really, thank you for your openness.
Thank you.
Arlene, I'm going to come back to you now, if that's all right. Because again, we've known each other for a fair while. And what I want to do for you while you're on the call, because we haven't seen you for a little while in terms of a class or anything, so this is a chance for you to up your stuff as well. I just want you to know, where's your frequency roughly at the moment? Do you know where your frequency is?
No, I can't
Okay.
pull the numbers.
Okay, so we'll have a look at that in a second. Just before we do you just want to explain to people, like you were in the first program?
Yes.
So the first program was January last year, so 12 months ago. Was it before that, wasn't it? I've done the third one. It would have been 18 months ago.
Yeah, I'm not good with dates and times.
Yeah, okay. So it's about 18 months ago now you did this program for 6 months. And I've noticed, can you just want to say what the change, not in who you are, because that's obviously changed in who you are, but your change in your circumstances. What sort of has happened since then?
So focus, I guess. Focus for me is the big thing that has changed. I really have been, through that program, grounded and more able to attract my pathway. Although that change is still at the moment, and it's in a evolutionary process that my mind would say has taken too long, but actually consciousness would say I'm going very well. Yeah. And I sit in the place today where I actually am drawing on the information from the mastermind group, a year ago, and putting that with the other one that I've been doing with my personal business, kinesiology business, and I am now putting them together, but actually it's more of a consciousness that it's all over the place, and I just flick to a page and there's the words that actually fall out. So for me, it's about attraction. That law of attraction is so much more part of my daily life than it was before. I've always been a conscious person, but obviously what you talk about is the frequency, that and the vibration coming together have made me so much more attracting of different things that I've never expected before.
Okay, thank you. One of the things I've recognised with Arlene in the time that we've been together, when I first met Arlene, she kept telling me how great of a 2IC she was. That was the language that she kept using, if you remember that, going back a few years now. And it was like, I'm a really good 2IC. I know my place. You know, I'll aspire to this level and I'll help everyone else. And what I see Arlene now, is certainly in New Zealand, but I think ultimately in the world stage, is as a leader in her own right. And, you know, what I see with you is you see that in yourself now. Like, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but it's really been a great, I've enjoyed being a witness to that change within you.
Yeah, stand by for the picture. I don't know what it is yet, but it's coming.
And it's coming, and it is coming, and some of that has been filled in, and some of it is still to be filled in. I recognise that, but that whole process. All right.
Yes.
And where you're at, what I want to do is give you your next step, so that while you're on the call, you've got the next step for yourself here as well. And where you're at the moment is your frequency is actually at F3, which is actually an abstract frequency. So it's actually the third level of the frequency. So when I talk about the traditional frequencies that we've been talking about, there's a higher conscious frequency, which I thought was it. I thought these high conscious frequencies we were going to live in. And then we found, all right, there's actually another frequency on top of that, which was an abstract frequency. And where you're at is you're actually, where you're shifting from is this abstract, which is everything sort of a bit all over the place when you go back into abstract too, by the way, but it's at a much higher level. And then the fourth frequency that you move into is an alchemy frequency. So the alchemy frequency is when you can take all these thoughts and these ideas and you start transmuting those into something real. And that's when, and you're really close to that. You're almost on the cusp of that. So, you know, the work that you're doing, just keep doing what we've done and keep using that to shift you into this fourth level, because that's what's going to shift everything for you. All right. And once you get past that, the fifth level, by the way, I won't go any more than that today, but the fifth level is a love frequency. And that's about really connecting from a love space to other people. So where you're going is really quite remarkable. And you know, part of the reason why I did this program in the first place, because I did a 6-month program for mentoring people to lift their vibration and lift their frequency. And the reason why I did that is I thought, what's the point of doing all this work myself, raising my frequency and vibration, and not have anyone else around to play with? So I wanted other people who were going to be in the vicinity of where I was going so that we can support each other. And one of the key things, I can remember you saying that one of the key things you got out of doing the course was that sense of community, that you're no longer doing it by yourself, but you're doing it with each other. You remember that?
And I really appreciate the constant checking in, the monthly calls, or at that time we were doing weekly? No, we were doing monthly.
Yeah, it works on a 4-week cycle in a month. So every week there's something going on. So we either had, like the first week is we have a group call to clear stuff, like clear levels of consciousness or clear beliefs and things like that. Then we had a one-on-one session. So we got to do individual work one-on-one with people. It's the same process because it's such a good process. The third week we do a mastermind group where we get to share ideas and what we're doing in a project and how can we move forward. And I even covered the Think and Grow Rich material and all that sort of stuff as well. And then the fourth week we actually buddy people up so that you actually connect to other people so that you can support each other and start learning from each other. And
I found that part of it, Barry, was really amazing because you're connecting outside of this group that you choose to become part of, and then you're shifting your focus outside. So that relationship building that my buddy and I had was another supporting role other than this group. So I got double the support and camaraderie and community that I was looking for.
Yeah. And that support, what I was doing, and the way I do that is I muscle test the people to pair them up as well. So I think you had someone from Australia, but it actually, the two of you were perfect for each other.
And it didn't matter because obviously we just Zoomed or Skyped each other and, do that from the space wherever we were, riding a bike, wherever we could.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for being on the call. Tonya, I want to bring you back in. I haven't seen you for a couple of years, so really good to see you. And we might get you to unmute yourself. And I just want to start by asking you if you have any. I can unmute you if you're having trouble doing that. I've just done it.
Oh, okay. That's
There
it.
you go.
Yeah.
I just want to start by asking you if you have any questions about what we've been talking about, because some of this might be new, some of it may not be that new.
No, I don't have any questions. I'm just taking it all in. It sounds really great.
Yeah. Okay. Would you like to know what your vibration frequency is at?
Yeah.
Must be that curious factor sitting there going, I wonder where I'm at. And Kathy's probably there because I know you've got Kathy on. She's going like, where are we at? I do just want to let you know it's not quite normal rule that I'll start doing people's vibrations and frequencies on the call. And I'll say that because it's not a comparison. So this is not about where you stand compared to Kathy. This is This is about where you are compared to you.
Yeah.
All right. So let's just have a look, and I'll do the same thing. I'll do both. I was going to do one of each, but then I just decided that the both gives me a picture of where you're at. So your vibration is at your vibration's at 600 as well. Okay, so again, it's interesting. We sort of hang out with people who are similar to us, and your vibrations are sort of similar in that sound. So you guys are obviously connect to each other fairly well and on the same sort of level of consciousness, if you like. The interesting thing, I'm going to suggest, and this is the interesting thing, I'm going to suggest you've probably been around 600 or just near that for about 5 years.
Okay.
So you've been there for a while now. You've been hanging around this really sort of there's the first level of enlightenment, if you like. You've been hanging around here for quite a time. And you've done all this work and you've maintained it. So I acknowledge that you've maintained it, but there hasn't been an increase.
Right.
And in terms of your frequency is at 73%. So, and again, that sort of high 60s, low 70s, a little bit of complacency in that none of the stuff I've probably been recommending would be all that new to you. It's about doing it consistently every day. And this is probably where the sabotages come in. If you remember when we worked together a couple of years ago, I talked about sabotages, about how they stop us from achieving. We know, we should be meditating, but it might have a sabotage that says, I'm not worthy or I'm not good enough, and why would we go up? And so some of those things are just slightly holding you back a little bit still. At the same time, you would probably have other people saying to you just how remarkable you are, similar to Kathy, like you've achieved all this, and they're going like, wow, I wish I could be like that, because they're probably down here somewhere, and you're thinking, well, I'm really ready to keep going, like I'm.
Yep.
So pretty similar sort of scenario. In terms of raising it, do you meditate every day?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I would have thought that too with those numbers, like. To do all this by yourself means that you're doing something right. I just want to let you know that as well. In terms of increasing your frequency, other than what I've been talking about, the major thing for you is about being out in nature.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is really hard. Right about now, at this time, I'm usually in the warm weather because I do streets and everything, and I'm usually in Jamaica in nature, not in New York, because it's here. So I feel like at this point, I have a lot to do to like in order to go to the next level, I have a lot of clearing to do physically and emotionally here in New York. So I'm not traveling that much into nature, because I was always traveling a lot, Dubai, India, Jamaica, you know. But now I feel like I have to be here in order to solidify, you know, this foundation in order to go to the next level, because there's a lot of clearing, there's a lot of change that's been happening in my life. It's good, but it's still change that I have to handle.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, you hit the mark always. You know, when we met in the park and you didn't know me from the, I was like, wow. And I've been saying the mantras. I go back to the mantras that you gave me. I was like, I have to remember that. I have to remember that. You know, yeah. So yeah, nature. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, look, thank you.
You know, in New York, we live in these sky cells. I'm a half a block from Central Park, but you know, it's cold here. You know, really cold. So, you know, so I most, because we used to do sessions in Central Park, meditation sessions, and I took my bowls out and we did meditation. I'm Catholic all the time, you know, and so we were able to bring our frequency up and our vibrations in nature, like we did. You know, we did that. But I have like, I bring like 18 bowls out and we play, and we have guests come in, and you know, so we're at kind of like in a frozen zone here.
Yeah.
But good in that, and I'm grateful for it. And I have to, like, you know, slow myself, like, okay, you need to do your work each day. I have to remind myself, you need to do work. You need to do, you know, the concrete work and the spiritual.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. But, you know, when I saw you at 3 o'clock this morning, I was like, that's what I need. It's what I need, you know.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been really good to talk to you. I really enjoyed just listening to you again. And I do remember we had a really good time sitting at the park there, and you did some, her bowls are going as well. So I can remember that as well. It was it was about halfway through my trip. So I sort of kept going as well. So thank you.
I'm feeling like I'm getting more creative in my bowl playing and things that I want to do. I mean, I actually have some. I mean, you got a producer there, so and I also sing, but I'm not quite singing with the bowls. But I have some ideas where I want to bring it into a whole nother level.
Awesome. All right. I think we need to keep talking at a later stage and just catch up. So look, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Edward, I want to welcome you to the call.
Good afternoon or good morning.
Good morning over in Australia. Good afternoon in, where are you at the moment?
California. California.
Oh, California. Whereabouts?
Just north of San Francisco.
So around Sebastopol?
Well, it's Marin County, so it's not quite as far north as Sebastopol.
Okay. Yep. I know where you are. Okay. I probably will be there at some point in the next few months. So.
Well, please, come by. I'll cook for you.
I'll definitely take you up on that. So that's pretty cool.
Coming on this call, I just, you know, it just feels very peaceful, clear. So it's nice being with you and the group. Thank you.
Oh, look, thank you. I just wanted to ask you how you've been since, you know, it's probably been 6 months, I guess, since the group. I'm just wondering how you've been.
Pretty well. As I mentioned before, I finished my book. You know, I first took your course to finish my book, and sure enough, I have the book done, and it's being published May 1st by Sounds True.
Oh,
it's
excellent.
No Recipe. So that's nice, and I'm hoping that you know, I'm not very good at generating business, but I'm hoping that some business comes my way, so to speak, with that.
Okay. Do you just want to quickly say what the book about when you've done a book with no recipes?
done 4 or 5 cookbooks. So this is a book, no recipe. It's about food and cooking and eating and life, and how actually there's no recipe finally for how to be you, how to live your life, what to do with yourself. You make it up, you create it as you go along, and use whatever resources you can draw into your life, and then see what you want to do.
Okay.
And do something not just to fit in, but that's from your core, or from inside, connecting with what's outside, so that you that's a kind of way to have a spiritual life.
Yep.
Your core, your heart, your felt sense with what's going on in the world, rather than just trying to make what's going on out there work. How do I connect myself with the world?
Yep.
Using cooking as a metaphor for that.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful, and certainly the time I've known Ed, the shift has been remarkable in the terms of just seem more stable within yourself, more happier within yourself.
Yeah, and now it's come to having doing therapy.
That's good, and that's life, like life is like that. So that's
look at what's really painful.
At least you're willing to look at it. So thank you. Thanks for being on the call.
All right, thank you, Barry.
Okay.
Sorry. Can you offer something about a frequency while I'm here?
Well, I sort of already had a look at that while we were talking, and most things that I really just want you to say, keep doing what you're doing. That's the major thing at this point. We'll do a specific one for you if there's something new. But
just in time to hear you talking to Kathy about gratitude, and I was just this morning remembering that my gratitude practice has fallen off, and it was very helpful for me when I was doing it every day. So I'm with my own remembering this morning, and then your reminder to Kathy today, I'm going to start practicing that again. So.
Yeah, you can like some of the things that came up, you could increase, like the frequency. And the other one that's coming up is acts of service, which is like an interesting one, like just to increase your being of service to others.
Uh-huh.
So sometimes especially when we're writing books and doing things like that, we can get a little bit insular, and just look for where you can be of service to others, because that's, again, gratitude and being of service. It's really hard to be, not clear why you're doing that, So it's one of the best ways of raising it. And look, you're doing really well. I just get a really good sense with you of where you're at the moment. So well done.
Thank you, Barry.
I won't give you any numbers because you never did like numbers in the first place. So thank you. All right. We're fastly out of time. Does anyone got any questions or any comments just about what we've done today? And I just want to finish up talking a few minutes about the actual program. I've been, it's come up a number of times, so I want to talk about that just a little bit. Any questions? I'm just going to give people a chance to throw in if something's coming up for them. Okay. So nothing is. We'll go around again shortly just to finish up. As some of you know, I've done 3 programs now, mentoring programs, and these are primarily about taking people from where they are, which is primarily probably people who are in there between sort of 50 and 70, 75% frequency, haven't quite reached that first level of enlightenment around 700. So that most people that come to the course are probably between 500, 600, that sort of level. It's similar to, I guess, some of those on the call today. And it's about shifting that plateau, and we shift it through all the things that I talked about, the weekly calls, the individual sessions, the mentoring, the buddy system, whatever's needed. And we create a sense of community, because that happens really quickly. And we actually do that in the first week with the conversations game. That it's a board game that actually creates community straight away. So we immediately jump into community. And then what I found is when we can clear things like the sabotages and the fears and the old belief systems, then the second half of the course, people are just flying through And I always have a goal that people would get over 1,000 by the end of the 6 months. In the third program, virtually every person did that in 3 months. You know, it's just happening quicker and quicker and quicker, which means we can actually go further. And so it really is a support-based system to support you in making a shift for yourself into a higher level process. And because there is something weekly, there's an accountability factor that comes in, and you know there's going to be a call every week or something that happens every week, and to keep you accountable in that process. And Jeremiah, I'm going to get you to come on in a sec because you've been on the program and he's gone into an advanced program as well. But, you know, someone who I believe has really internally made a shift in who he is and was, you know, doing a lot of this stuff already. Like, I'm not saying like most of you are even on the call, we're already doing things. It's not my program's going to change you. My program will support you on your path of your own self-development. So Jeremiah, I'll unmute you. You're not unmuted. We're playing tags. Okay, so would you like just to make that comment about that shift that you feel like you've made in that time period? Because Jeremiah and I have done actually some extra work on top of that, and I'm just wondering, do you want to make a comment on where you were and where you're at?
Oh yeah, I think it's been an amazing shift. I mean, because I now check in on the frequency every day with you, Barry. I actually flick you a smiley face if I'm in that good frequency space, and because I'm reminding myself all the time, pretty much nothing phases me, which is great. And although I have choices and visions and expectations, and which I want to manifest, it's if things go in a different sort of pathway, then I'm fine with that anyway. So that's been an amazing change. I've very much enjoyed it, and but hearing again everybody today, I do need to up my practices a bit. I sort of can be a bit spasmodic at times. So yeah, and because it's been, the growth has been tremendous, and I want to keep growing.
Okay, thank you. And part of the call I invite some of you guys on is to remind you of the basics again. Like we don't want to forget the basics. And so, as we do some of the advanced work that some of us are doing now together, let's not forget the meditations and the gratitude and being in nature and those sorts of things.
I think one of the things that helped me to keep my frequency going is I've got my little journal or book that I have my practices that I do, and I just I try and carry that with me so that and then I just look at the first couple of pages, which just have some nice things on how I wish my day to be, and just as a reminder, so that I don't sort of get into life without having the support.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Luke, did you want to make a comment, or Jade, either of you, because you've been sitting there very patiently?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm always the person who's like meditation, gratitude. I feel like that for the course, that's like my thing. Like that I've just kept on like doing. Like I just wake up and I'm just like, I'm gonna do this. So yeah, I guess just do it.
Okay,
It's worth it.
all right. Jade, have you got a question you'd like to ask, or how was today? Has it made sense to you?
Yeah, it's made sense. It's been good to listen to other people's experiences and what they can make changes for.
Yeah. Because even your trip, I know you've been overseas for 6 months or something, weren't you?
4 months.
Even that is an experience in itself, isn't it? Like that shifts your perspective on how you see life and how you see things. And I think traveling should be compulsory for everyone. I think, like we all mandatory in our life to do some traveling around the world and see that what I found in traveling is that people are people everywhere. Like this concept that we're all one, I actually see that when I travel. If we take away politics and religion, we're all basically just trying to be happy, look after our kids and do the right thing and be nice to each other. Like there isn't that much of a difference.
Yeah.
And so hopefully you got to experience some of that when you're overseas. It's always nice to come home too, I have to say. I've always enjoyed coming back. It's like, yes. So that's pretty cool. All right, look, where to from here? I just want to finish up. Look, I want to thank people being on the call. Look, it's been a really interesting process today to go over some of this for some people, but to introduce it to others. And where to from here? I always suggest start by having a conversation with me. So, you know, if you want your vibration frequency checked, I can do that for you. My suggestion to always start would be just a 1 hour session, just to see if working together we're a fit. Because, you know, 6 month programs are a fairly big commitment, and you want to make sure that the way I work is the way you work, and vice versa, that we actually get on. Because, you know, I see this as a long-term, almost relationship base that we're creating. And so, you know, I've never allowed anyone just to come into the program without at least doing a 1 hour session, just to get an idea of who I am and to see the way that I actually operate. So for those who are here, and particularly there's probably about 20 people who have asked to listen to the replay, can I really suggest that you start by connecting with me and really clearing some stuff to start with. So even a one-off session will get to clear some of those major sabotages that you may have had. All right. And I think that'd be a really good thing to do. I just want to finish up, maybe about 15 seconds from each person. There's about 7 or so people here. So Caroline, did you just want to, you text something? I didn't quite get a chance to check that out. So did you want to make how was today for us?
Yeah, I just said it really didn't feel like 6 months, and it's always good to be reminded of the basics again and again and again and again.
Yeah, yep. I do a lot of teaching, and I'm always going back to teaching basics. So I think we've got to get that right. And look, it's actually even good for me to even teach this again, because I get to listen to myself and go, yep, I'm going to do that. All right. Arlene, how was today for you?
Very good, thank you. A really awesome reminder of what I was missing out on, and yeah, encouragement to be part of the next advanced group. So look forward to catching up then.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Anyone else who hasn't spoken for a while? Kathy, how was today for you? I've unmuted you.
Oh, thank you. No, it was very informative. I was taking everything in what was going on, and I feel like it was necessary, I guess, to kind of like remind you or poke you a little bit to like, oh, you know, don't forget to do this and keep doing that. And you know, like the way you said it, the things that you are doing, that's great. And then the things that, you know, that's good, but improve upon. So I thought what you said was really, really great.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. Does anyone else feel like they need to say anything before we finish up?
I want to wish you all the best, Barry. It's still early enough in the year. And everybody else on the call, Happy New Year, and love and blessings for the coming year. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Evan. And the same to you. And I think it's never too early, never too late. I think we could be hopefully wishing each other Happy New Year in June. That'd be an interesting one, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, it is a different season there than here, but you know.
Yeah, we've got about 28, 29 degrees Celsius here today. So probably the next day or two, I'll probably go to the beach on the Gold Coast and just have a bit of a swim. So right. That'll be really cool as well. So I just bought myself an electric push bike, so I get up and down the hills just a little bit easier these days.
Okay, great.
So that's pretty cool. I want to thank everyone for being on the call. I want to thank you for your participation and your openness. I'd like to finish today. I'm going to finish it with an inspiration card from the Conversations game. And I'm just going to choose a card at random for the entire group, those live on the call and those listening, just as a way of completing. And just before I do, you know, look, if it resonates to do some more work with me, do that. If it resonates to go, you need to go and see your old practitioner again or someone else again, do that. I'm very much a believer of getting support. You know, I still go and see other people myself. You know, never believe you got to the stage where you don't need support from someone else. And the last thing, of course, is you don't have to do it alone, because we are here together. So I'm here to support you. As I said, my primary purpose is about uplifting humanity. I've had a number of near-death experiences and major illnesses, and I've worked through all of that and recognised that there's something bigger in life than just what we, the day-to-day stuff that sometimes we can get focused on. So an inspiration card for the entire group. It's an interesting one to finish up with, and it says, you cannot know anything without having the opposite to compare with. So my wish for everyone is we've all had the opposite to compare with. We've all had the stuff that we don't want. And now we'll be really grateful when all the amazing stuff starts coming into our lives. So thank you all for being on the call. Hope to talk to some of you again soon. Thanks, everyone.